Jay Black here, Kevin, Eric, Scott Howard, Neil Williamson, the broadcast crew is here, and I've never been so happy to see you guys, even though it's on video.
You lead a lonely life, Jay.
Well, I do, and a pandemic will remind you of that.
Yes,
But
it does.
it
Yeah,
is
we've all
nice.
been reminded of that consistently over the last 6 months.
But just getting back together with you guys, and as Eric said on the radio with me this morning, a sense of normalcy, which is like 80% of the right word, but that's the one he chose.
It does feel good to get back into this routine again. We had a chance to see each other, all of us outside of you, Jay. We had a chance to see each other this past weekend and get together, and it feels like we're officially underway right now, and a little bit later than normal, but boy, it does feel good to have some Georgia football on the horizon.
Well, you know what? I'm glad it's back. That's for sure. We were together, as Eric said, this past week, and we were learning our new rules. So everything's changed, how we're going to get to the game, what we're going to be able to do at the games, how many people will be in the booth. So this is the new norm, and it's different. But the one thing about it is, when that ball kicks off, we'll be in football season, and it'll all be normal at that point. So we're looking forward to bringing it to everybody like we've done for many years. But this year will be a little different, but I think we are in a position to really bring the Bulldog Nation the information that they're really seeking this year that they're not going to get through the normal channels. So I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be different, but we'll do our best to bring all the news to the Bulldog Nation.
Neil, are you still going to let Z ride with you? You're going to make him sit in the back?
Oh, no, Z lets me ride with him. Are you kidding? I'm the caddy. It's Eric Zier, dude.
Well, he makes me drive him. He sits in the back and gets all spread out, and I chauffeur him around normally. It's just you had a back.
That's when I'm awake, I spread out. But the rest of the time, I'm usually napping.
I know Scott drives alone.
Well, it's not always intended, but sometimes it just works out that way. That way I can listen to what I want to listen to, right? You don't have to, is this okay for you to listen to? You want to listen to this talk show or to this music? So you can just listen to it what you want to, or roll down the windows, or, make your own rules.
You're a Rita Coolidge kind of guy, aren't you, Scott? You're going to stand by.
Yeah.
Well, talking about travel, though, when you look at our travel this year for the Bulldogs, it's going to play a role in this season when you think about all of the long away games that we have to go to where travel is disrupted, and even your protocols on the road are going to be disrupted. Really something to look out for. We're away from Athens 6 times this year because we're playing Florida as a home game in Jacksonville. So again, we're on the road there. So only 4 times in Athens, and they're lengthy road trips as well. Going to Arkansas, going to Missouri, going to Kentucky. Not the easiest of road trips in a year that everything is disrupted. I think it's something that we've got to watch out for, not just with us. It doesn't matter if it's hard on us getting to these games, but for the team, when you think about 6 road games, essentially 6 road games this year in a 10-game season, it has a chance to take its toll. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Kevin, how many weeks do you think it will take for the product on the field to have that sense of normalcy that we're used to?
Wow. I don't know if 10 weeks is enough this year. I don't know if it'll ever be normal. Just as Eric said, the football and coaches and players, we're creatures of habit, and that is all but changed now. And if they can get into a routine, Jay, that, they can reproduce on each of these trips, that'll be to their advantage. But, you just have to understand that everything is going to be a little different this year. As far as the product on the field, I think maybe, into that 3rd game, really the Tennessee game, they should be at least a little bit more consistent in what they're trying to do. You can't slowly introduce plays this year. We're going to need them the 2nd week. We're going to need them the 3rd week. We're going to need them the 4th week. And so you're not going to see everything thrown out in the Arkansas game, but you wonder about timing. You wonder about the consistency of the team. I think it's going to be a big challenge for them all year long, really. But you would hope by that third and fourth game, certainly down in Alabama, that they have become consistent, no penalties. The little things, that hidden yardage, I think that's going to really play the key in these first 4 games.
Let's go around the horn here. Scott, we'll start with you. Just what are your expectations for this team?
I expect this to be another good year. I expect this team to be in the hunt for a division championship, a conference championship, and then beyond that. I mean, that's the expectation of this team every year, to be honest with you. And I don't see why this year would be any different, even though the year is vastly different in the season. But the expectations of Georgia football are the same as they always are. And certainly with the players returning to this squad, especially on defense, I think you have to give Georgia the nod in the East to get back to the SEC championship game in Atlanta. And then, as we've all seen, if you win that ball game, you're in the playoff hunt. So I think those are the expectations for this team. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Neil?
Well, defense carries the day for sure, are my expectations. The offensive side of the ball, I'm reminded of how Larry used to say to us all the time, Scott, what Irk Russell used to say, and that was, you can lose a lot of players in the off season, or not a lot, but a normal amount of players. But if you lose them all on the same side of the ball, you could have a problem. And I think that's really probably the biggest concern with the offense, is losing those 3 starting offensive linemen to the NFL, and then Cade Mays as well, and losing the quarterback, and losing DeAndre, and losing the 2 tight ends. It's a lot of guys to lose on one side of the ball. I think we ought to be pretty good. I liked what Kevin was saying about we don't have time to slowly inject plays and add plays. But, one of my concerns is, if TJ Daniels isn't cleared to play, we're going to have 3 quarterbacks who have essentially never taken a snap against a Division I team that I can think of. I'm not sure that Stetson Bennett ever has. And with a new offense on the road, first game, all the restrictions, there's concern there.
I think Stetson took the 1 in the SEC championship game and failed that pass over whoever it was. So you got 1.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, now he's got all the experience we need. Yeah, and
I feel much better now.
And the other thing is, when somebody asked me in the spring if we could win the national championship, and I said, well, it depends on whether our place kicker can get close to what Rodrigo Blankenship provided for us in the past few years. I mean, he has really been a solid, dependable piece of the attack.
Kevin, do we have a replacement for Rodrigo?
Well, we lost Rodrigo. I think he also threw 1 pass in his career, so that was 2 quarterbacks we lost last year, I guess. But, he was a valuable player. When Neil was just talking about who we lost off of offense, you think about guys that were producing, putting points up there. Not only the offensive linemen, we had a lot of point production that left, and that's something that you hope that offense can pick up and get to that point. But when you talk about kicking, I think Jarrett Zirkle, our freshman kicker, I would like to see him given that opportunity. I think we certainly have capable backups at place kicker. And if it came down to it, Jake Camarda could do it, but he's a valuable person at punting. And, sometimes you have to have a little growing pains to get freshmen in there. And we went out, we signed this kid. He's got a strong leg. He's produced in high school, and now we got to see if he can produce here. And I think, throw him in the fire, see what he can do, and, take it from there. But I think you build confidence by, standing behind some of these young freshmen, and the kicking position is going to be that part. The other thing we got to replace with Rodrigo is that the defensive play of the kickoff. We need to make sure that we still limit teams and their abilities to run kickoffs back with our defense, always knowing that they're going to go in and start at the 25 or the 20 or whatever it is nowadays. I think that's an advantage to them. And it's a big play that we've gotten used to, just like Neil said, that's something that we've taken for granted for the last 4 years. And hopefully we can start to take it for granted again with our new kicker.
See who's going to be the quarterback on Saturday.
Well, we know it's a game time decision, and it's going to be Daniels or it's going to be Dwan Mathis. But boy, just no idea right now. And knowing, I think if I had to place a bet right now, assuming he's able to go, it's going to be JT Daniels, just because he's got the experience of playing big time college football. And you look at the start of this season for the Dawgs, and it's you go on the road to Arkansas. Anytime you go on the road in the SEC, it's tough, even though Arkansas, as Scott has so definitely noted here over the past couple of weeks, it's a team that we should beat pretty easily. But then you get right into the teeth of it with Auburn and Tennessee and obviously Alabama. I think having that experience, even though it's limited experience and it's not experience in this offense or with this team, I think the nod goes there. But everything we're hearing out of Athens right now is just the progress of Dwan Mathis. He's put on quite a bit of weight, and then you put weight on that 6'6" frame. He is he's got the tools, definitely has the look to be a guy that can go take those reins. And I think we're going to see this competition at quarterback throughout the year. So nobody knows. Anybody's guess is as good as mine at this point. What I do feel comfortable with is we've got two very capable quarterbacks that can lead this football team because of the defense that we have, because of the running game that we should have. Really, it's going to be critical that you step in as a quarterback and lead the team. Make sure that you don't hurt your team with any kind of mistakes, because your defense and your running game, they are good enough to win every single game on the schedule. They are good enough to win an SEC championship. They're good enough to win a national championship. So it's, question marks there for sure. But the depth that we have in that position makes you feel a little bit better than maybe you would in years past, where we definitely didn't have this kind of depth.
Scott, you've seen a few of the scrimmages now. Will we notice any major changes yet in Todd Monken's offense?
Probably not from a play standpoint. Maybe from an aggressive style. We hear that he's a very aggressive play caller. They want to score points. They want to move the ball. They want to keep the sticks moving. All of that sort of thing. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe to the expert eye, there'll be some changes noted, but from the two scrimmages that I saw, I mean, it's basically the same kind of plays, some different personnel, obviously, but maybe a different mentality on how to execute those plays and the urgency, perhaps, things like that. But I don't think we're not going to line up in a lot of different formations that folks haven't already seen us in. I mean, they'll spread the receivers out, a lot of one-back offense. You got a lot of RPO stuff. Hopefully we throw to the tight end. That might be a factor. So the things I think it's going to be fun. I don't know how many changes are on the way, and I don't even know if I would notice them, to be honest with you. But I think it's going to be a fun offense to watch, even though we haven't seen a lot of these guys perform as a unit together because there's so many new faces on it. But I'm excited I'm eager to see how it works on Saturday.
Neil, can this defense be better than last year?
I'm not sure that we should wonder about it being better than last year. It was pretty good last year. I think what I worry more about is could they fall off this year? Could they read their own clippings? Could they just not play as well? If they're as good as last year, heck, fire. They don't have to be a whole lot better. They just got to make sure that they don't get worse. And I use this example, and this isn't meant to be disparaging to any of our units or coaches or anything else, but last year, all we heard coming in was, this is the greatest offensive line in the history of college football. These guys are the Great Wall of Georgia. Tongue in cheek a couple of weeks ago with Scott and Eric, I was saying, by golly, we were going to rush for 800 or 900 yards a game. But then you go out there and Jay, they hand out scholarships in Tuscaloosa and Knoxville too, man. So if we could play as well as we did last year, I'd be overjoyed.
All right, we'll go around the horn on this, and this doesn't have to be too expansive here. But Scott, we'll start with you. Who do you think will be the best player on this team?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man, I don't know if I have the answer to that, because you want to say somebody that contributes a lot. If you go with a receiver, how much effect does a receiver have? The quarterback is probably well, he touches the ball on every play unless you go to a wild dog formation or something like that. I don't know who the best player is on this team. Maybe maybe we haven't seen that player yet. I guess with everybody back on defense, you'd maybe have to pick somebody there. I mean, Richard LeCounte is getting, talks about being an All-American. I don't know if he's the best player on the team or not. I don't really have an answer for that. There's a vast selection of choices that you could go. And I guess you could argue your point as soon as you make a decision, but I don't know who that would be.
Anybody got a selection?
I'll go defense. I would say, Azeez Ojulari stands out. Malik Herring. I mean, these two guys are just dominant players that I think are kind of underrated when you talk about All-Americans. I think they're really going to be a factor this year. On the offensive side, think about Pickens. It's you've got to have a flashy player make those big plays. I think, we'll get into, who else? Any one of the running backs could have a breakout year, given the offensive line come along. Schaefer on the offensive line's a leader. I think just the competition that they have makes all these guys play hard, not take a down off, because, these coaches are looking for that to get somebody else in there. And you've got some great young guys that are wanting to get in and play. So I think our older players will step up, and those guys, those names jump out at me as being some guys that can take the lead on that defensive unit. And certainly, we know what we can do with our talent on the offensive side.
I think I'll answer that question. Who's going to be the most productive? I think you look at best players. I think the most talented player we have on the football team right now on the offensive side of the ball is probably George Pickens. But you've got two young quarterback, inexperienced quarterbacks in a system that we haven't been able to go through spring, and you've got a new offensive coordinator. So, I think if I look at most productive, I think James Cook on the offensive side of the ball has got a chance to be the most productive offensive player that we have, that can present just massive challenges for defensive coordinators, because he can take the ball in the backfield with the handoffs or toss sweeps, but he can also get outside and get and hurt you in the receiving game as well. And I think we've got to have breakout years by Zamir White and Kenny McIntosh, and maybe a freshman that comes along the way as well. I think we've got to have great breakout years there. But I'm excited to see how we utilize a James Cook. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we've got such great talent at the outside linebacker position that's going to require offensive coordinators to get honed in and locked in on how do I minimize that impact. But I think you look at a guy like Nakobe Dean and Monty Rice that are going to be allowed to run free, because you've got to have so much attention outside with these great outside linebackers that we have, that those two guys in the middle, an inside linebacker, I think can have breakout kind of years. We already know they're good players. We're just so good on the defensive side of the ball. So many guys that are going to require attention. I think those guys are going to be very, very productive.
Yeah, I agree with Z's assessment on the defense. With the fellas we have on the outside, I see Monty Rice as having a hugely productive year. Somebody whose stats you won't see is going to be Jordan Davis. He's a guy who I think will have an incredibly productive year, and nobody out there will know it except people who understand the intricacies of having a three-man line. Pardon me. Best player on the team, though, if they were holding the NFL draft tomorrow, I could tell you who the number one guy would be picked off of Georgia. That's George Pickens.
All right, we'll do rapid fire on this one. Who are you most interested in seeing that either didn't play last year or as a freshman or just didn't play a lot? Scott, start with you.
The quarterback. JT Daniels or Dwan Mathis.
Agreed.
I want to see how they're going to fit into the offense, how they're going to run the offense, how they're going to command the offense. That's who I want to see.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. Outside of that, we saw him play some, but Kenny McIntosh is the other one that I want to see. I think that he is an immense talent. I'd like to see the football in his hands an awful lot. But the initial answer is who's going to step forward at the quarterback position. But just not to be redundant, I'll go with Kenny McIntosh.
Kevin?
I'm going to go with Jalen Carter. I want to see Jalen Carter. I've heard a lot of good things about him on the defensive line. He's big. He's very quick. And I think we need to have that type of player to come in. And, we're asking a lot from our three guys down, as Neil was saying. But, if we can get an impact player, freshman, that comes in as dominating on the defensive line, that excites me for the future.
Either of the quarterbacks.
I like the Big O.
Big O. Yeah, that's a good one, too. That's a good pick.
Darnell Washington, biggest guy to be here since Leonard Pope at tight end. As much as Georgia fans have been clamoring to, as Hondo says, throw it to the tight end, well, you're not going to be able to miss him. Hondo, I know we're all very proud of this show that we put on, and we try to make it the best in the country. Why do you think it is so successful?
Preparation by the on-air personalities. I really believe that. I think we have, pardon me, excuse me. I think the preparation and the dedication that all of our hosts have to the broadcast is evident when you look at the fact that we're on the air for 10 and a half hours. And I think there's only one other program in the country that has a longer airtime than ours, and that's Nebraska. The fact that we're on the air for 10 and a half hours, and if you are a fan who tunes in at any time, you're not going to get the, this is the half hour where we're not so good, or this is the half hour where we're filling. We're compelling radio from the second that JD and Kevin sign on until they sign off again at the end of the day.
Zeke?
Well, I would agree with that. I think the camaraderie that we have as a team, we've been together now for a long time, and the way that we are able to work, we know how one another thinks about the game, and we complement each other, I think, very, very well in that regard. But we have got great care for one another. It really is a team. It really is a family that goes to work every single Saturday, and I think that shows through.
Kevin?
Yeah, it's an honor. I think we all know it's an honor to be able to work for the University of Georgia and the Bulldogs and to bring football to all the fans. I mean, we all are invested a lifetime into this Bulldog nation, and it is an honor. I think we all approach it like that. We don't take it lightly. These guys that I'm here with, man, they do the down and dirty. They call the games, and I just don't think I could do it because I know I would say something on air that would get us all in trouble. So that's why they keep me on the bookends, and I appreciate what they do because it is it's important that we bring the news and we bring the game to the fans that grew up like me. I mean, I grew up listening to the Georgia Bulldogs. I didn't watch TV. I didn't see them on TV. They weren't on TV that much. And certainly, when I was growing up, it was Larry that brought it to us. So it's an honor to do it. It's an honor to be associated with Georgia after all these years. And I think it shows in our broadcast.
Scott, what's it like working with all these guys for 10 hours every Saturday?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, that's what you want to do in this situation. I mean, you're creating something for the listener, and you want to have fun doing it. As Neil said, there's a ton of preparation to do each week. It's kind of like cramming for a final exam each week to try to make sure you have every nook and cranny covered. You got it all filled. Every little nugget that you might need to throw in on the broadcast, and to be able to work with Eric and Kevin and their vast football knowledge, because they certainly have the experience in the game, both at the collegiate level and the professional level. I mean, that's a great comfort to have. from my job, all I got to do is talk about what I see, what's going on right then, and then, turn it over to these guys and let them tell the listeners exactly why something happened, or, something that they saw that I didn't see. And it's a lot of fun. And that's what makes it not really work. I mean, we get tired after a long day on Saturday, but it's thrilling. It makes you feel good after you're finished. If you feel like you did the right thing and you got everything right, or most things right, and you're pretty sure your audience had a good time following along with what you were doing. So it's a great thrill for me to be what I'm doing along with these guys. And there's a lot of other guys that aren't in the picture right now that certainly assist with what we do. We've got a big crew. It's a big show, and it's a long Saturday, and we have a lot of fun, and I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, Jay, I want to jump in. Jay, may I jump in with a couple of things here? Pardon me once again. One is, Scott's right. I mentioned the on-air preparation, but the behind-the-scenes crew does a really, really solid job of making sure that we have a lot of moving parts in a 10.5-hour broadcast, a lot of moving parts. And those guys make sure that it's the old duck metaphor, right? It's smooth running on top while we're paddling like crazy underneath. So definitely hats off to Tony Schiavone and Chris Schiavone, and to the IMG crew. And to you, Jay, I mean, gosh, now at the tailgate show, you are constantly screaming at me to stop taking pictures and come and get on the air. So,
you don't have to worry about that this year.
No, we won't. Second thing I want to say out of the three is our play-by-play team is the best in the business. Okay. I have hired, I have supervised, I have employed in many roles over the years, lots of the top play-by-play people, national play-by-play people in the nation. Okay. Scott Howard is as good a play-by-play guy as you are ever going to hear on the radio. We're watching that game right alongside him. We're not in the car going, I wonder if that really was a 42-yard pickup, or if that guy's just making up the number, right? I mean, Scott is nailing it every time. And Eric's incredible ability to give analysis in the short window between plays that's not only concise, but informative and quite often entertaining for fans is fantastic. The third thing I would say is, when you ask what it's like when we walk into the booth or when we see each other almost every Saturday, it's not unlike our first time in Athens a week ago. You remember the old Budweiser commercial of "What's up?" And everybody, that's what it's like with all of us every week. It is those buddies walking into a room, "What's up?" and ready to have a great time.
Well, speaking of great time, this is kind of the last one here. Best story, funniest story from this crew, since you've been there in the last few years. We'll start with Z, since he's already grinning.
Goodness, there's so many. It may have to be my analysis of throwing cold footballs last year. I'll just leave it at that.
You mean when it was wet and cold?
That's exactly what I mean. It's either that or your description of a quarterback bending down to get a snap.
That's what I was just thinking.
One of those
Instead of a deep crouch, it was a deep crotch. And that's what's so fun about working with you guys is nothing gets by anybody.
At all.
Somebody's always going to bring up your mistake, and then what else can you do but laugh about it and make fun of it and have fun with it and just move on. I mean, it's, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, those two stand out. Chuck getting run over on the field and, not being nimble enough to get out of the way.
That was good.
There's a lot of them, though. You can pick, but those are the ones that stand out for me.
Kevin?
Oh, probably getting off the air and turning around and having Schiavone lift up his shirt. I don't know.
That was on the air.
Yeah, it keeps you up at night. You know,
You
just
said
that
funniest
thought.
thing, not most disgusting.
Well, I just can't get that out of my mind. I guess the other thing would be when each year when we get together for that for the photo for the media guide that y'all keep sending me and Danzer to somewhere else.
It works every year.
It does. It does. No,
It's
it's
still
great.
over at the pictures at the plaza this year, Kevin.
Yeah, we'll be there. I'm sure they'll probably tell us to go hang out by the bell.
Hondo,
Yeah, I think one of the funniest for me was I was in our booth at Sanford Stadium and at halftime, and just so everybody knows, Tony Schiavone and Scott, between them, will bring lots of goodies for us to snack on before the game. So there are bags of cookies, or Scott's wife Melanie will often bake things for us that are just out of this world. And people who are in the press box who feel comfortable enough to stick their head in and aren't intimidated will often come in and raid the cookies, right? Now, Charlie Whittemore, who not only played receiver for Georgia for years, but then ran our facilities and coached under Coach Dooley, et cetera, et cetera. Charlie used to come in and grab cookies. So different people will pop in every now and then. Well, it was the end of halftime 2 seasons ago, and I was standing up by the cookies. So right on, not on the play-by-play level, but on the engineer level. And our booth is right next to the Georgia coaches booth. And one of our assistant coaches just burst into the room and stopped, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, hi, I'm not going to use his name. Let's make believe it was Kevin. Hi, Kevin. And he goes, hi, Neil. And he's looking at me weird, and I said, do you want a cookie? Because I couldn't figure it out. And he looked at me, and he just had this look like, do I want a cookie? He kept looking. All of a sudden, he looked to his left and saw he was in the wrong booth. He was trying to figure out, what is wrong with this picture? Why is Neil in my way? You know, because we're about to start the second half, and they're coming up from the locker room, and he's in the wrong booth, and I'm trying to figure out, what's he wanting here? But all of a sudden, we both got to realize that he just turned and took off, and that was that. The other thing that I would share with people is one of the most interesting things to me is, you know, down at the tailgate show, we have we take pictures with people during commercial breaks, and over the past 10 years or so, since we've been doing it on the Tate Plaza outside the bookstore, the fact that we've taken thousands of pictures and autographs and all that other fun stuff, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. But during that time, we have had 3 or 4 grown men and or children, so sons or grandchildren, come up and tell us that either their first or middle name is Zaire.
That's scary for those kids, but yes, that's true.
I mean, I go crazy whenever that happens. They're like, this is our son, Paul Zaire Ortega or whatever. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that is really something, Z.
Yeah, it is special. It's humbling for sure, and special. You know, obviously we get a chance to see each other all of the time, and don't think that much about any of it. But it truly is. It's humbling that it's a great honor as well to hear those kind of stories, and so it is special indeed.
Special, Z and I. You know, most every kid in the world has been called my name at.
Oh, he froze. He had a joke and he froze.
He froze, KB.
Deliver the punchline again.
Am I back on?
You're back on.
I said every kid in the world has been called my name before, Butthead.
Well, as we wrap it up here, being one of the newer guys on the crew behind the scenes, what I really picked up on working with you guys is how much it truly is a family. It is a Georgia radio family, and we want that to come out on the air every week. And we want the listener, the Bulldog fan. This isn't for the tech folks. This ain't for the Florida people. This is for Bulldog Nation. I mean, what more could you want in a 10-hour broadcast if you're a Georgia fan than what's here on the screen? We've got the knowledge, we've got the experience, we've got the passion, and it's family. And we hope you will join us each and every Saturday here on the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network on 95.5 WSB.